Why don't you drive us back to the showroom, if you like, we can have a look at the order form and some colour charts.
We all remember the Skoda adverts from the late 1990s. They were brilliant, self-deprecating masterpieces that played on the joke Skoda built rubbish cars.
I'm afraid some little vandal has stuck a Skoda badge on the front of it, sir.
But over the years, Skoda has become a serious player, producing some great cars like the Yeti, Fabia and the new Superb. They can even turn out a pretty good hot hatch with the Octavia VRS.
But here's the biggest joke of them all. Skoda thinks it can build a large family SUV. A large family SUV? Skoda?
It's funny because the large family SUV is easily the car of the moment. To be a winner in this part of the market, you have to build a practical and roomy car. It needs to be economical to run and cheap to buy, but it also needs to be a little bit desirable. This is Skoda's take on the formula. It's called the Kodiaq and it arrives in showrooms in April.
But we should really all stop laughing because judging by Skoda's recent form, this has the potential to be best in class. So I think it's about time that we pulled over to see what's what. Now, there was a time when Skoda would get all of VW's cast-offs, but nowadays it can cherry-pick the very best bits from the VW group. So Skoda has pinched VW's clever MQB platform, and whilst that platform is used for the tiny little Golf, they've managed to stretch it to build a 7-seat SUV. In terms of size, it's virtually identical to the Kia Sorento and the Hyundai Santa Fe, and it's longer than the Land Rover Discovery Sport. Oh, and if you think this car looks absolutely massive, it's actually shorter than the Skoda Superb.
Rivals like the Kia Sorento and the Hyundai Santa Fe and the Land Rover Discovery Sport all come with 7 seats, so naturally this Skoda has made space for 7 too, should you want it. Basic Kodiaqs come with 5 seats and there's a massive well-shaped boot. Pay an extra £1,000 and you get 2 seats hidden under the boot floor. With them up, there's hardly any boot room, so you'll have to choose between your friends or your Sainsbury's shopping.
But those are just facts and figures. What's it actually like in the back? Well, let's hop into the middle row. And that seat is set up in my driving position. I'm just over 5'10", and look at the amount of knee room I've got. That's really very good. Headroom is very good too, thanks to that square roof line. Carrying a middle passenger, they are going to have to haul themselves over this transmission tunnel, but once they're over here, there's a good amount of headroom as well. Down here we've got some charging ports, which is great for kids on long journeys, and this particular car has got the option extra holder here, so you can fit your iPad there and watch movies and all sorts of things. This middle row is fully adjustable. I can slide it forwards if I'm carrying some people in the back, or if I want to get really comfortable, the backrest is fully adjustable as well. Now, speaking of people in the back, let's see what it's actually like for adults. Slide this forwards. And the whole base slides forwards as well, which is really good. Now, I apologise, this isn't particularly graceful, but bear with. And in I go. And yeah, headroom is a bit tight, but I am an adult after all, and for most of the time, children can be sitting back here, so it's actually fine. If I slide this back into its original position, I've actually got a decent amount of knee room as well. This, by no means, is a bad 7-seat SUV.
This has to be the nicest interior Skoda has ever made. Up to now, Skoda interiors have been well made, but design-wise they've been as stylish as a pair of elasticated trousers. In here, everything is still well made, and there's some great kit. Top models get ambient lighting and wireless phone charging, and mid-level models and upwards get this smart infotainment system. But there's some style in here. Skoda has even added some smart touches like protectors that pop out when you open the doors, special cup holders that allow you to open bottles one-handed, and umbrellas in the doors.
So the Kodiaq is roomy, it's practical and it's full of kit. But what are the prices? Well, let's see on this laminated spec sheet, and they are... Crikey, this Kodiaq starts from 21,495. That's around £800 less than the VW Tiguan. This Kodiaq edition, range-topping version, costs £32,695. To get an equivalent Land Rover Discovery Sport, you're going to be looking at spending around £4,000 more. I think it's time that we ditched the spec sheet and took this for a drive.
Don't worry, I haven't gone completely mad. £32,695 is an awful lot of money, but by the standards of the class, it's very reasonable. And there's a choice of engines. The range kicks off with a 1.4 petrol and, for now, goes right up to a 2-litre diesel with 187 brake horsepower and 4-wheel drive.
I wouldn't bother with the 125 brake horsepower 1.4, I'd go for the 150 turbo 1.4 because it's a much nicer engine, much smoother and a lot punchier. Diesel wise, well, we've got the pick of the engine range here. It's the 148 brake horsepower 2-litre diesel with 4-wheel drive for that all year round grip. And it's a perfectly decent engine. It's punchy enough, there's lots of in-gear acceleration, and one particularly good thing about this Kodiaq is how quiet it is on the move. It's so refined. There's very little wind noise and very little tyre roar. To drive, well, it feels very much like any other VW Group product these days. Very similar to the Skoda Superb, the VW Passat, the Seat Ateca and so on. The steering is perfectly well weighted and accurate enough. The controls have a nice positive and accurate feel to them. And this particular car has got the dynamic chassis control, so it's got adaptive dampers. Now, it would be interesting to see how this car rides on standard steel springs, but I don't think it's going to be massively worse than this. This rides really very well indeed, and I think the standard car is going to be absolutely fine. Overall, it's a very quiet, refined and sophisticated driving experience.
With its polished driving manners, it's unlikely you'll ever be taking it off-road, and even with its off-road modes on the 4x4 versions, I suspect a Land Rover Discovery Sport will be a little more adept. But you wouldn't want to get the Kodiaq dirty, would you? Not when it looks as good as an Audi costing twice as much. I think it looks fantastic.
So there we have it then. We'll have to drive this car in right-hand drive and against its nearest rivals, but on this very early UK drive, this easily has the potential to be a new class leader. So, Skoda can build a large family SUV after all then. It seems as though the only joker around here is me for thinking they couldn't do it.
Click the video window on the left for a first drive of the Skoda Superb, and on the right for the Land Rover Discovery Sport. Click the play icon for our latest video and on our logo to subscribe.